Morning, everyone. So today we're here to talk to you about the Adult Skills and Learning Dynamic Purchasing System and how you can apply for it. So I'll just start with sort of introducing you to the Learning and Development category team. So we have Lyndon, who's the current commercial lead, and he will shortly be leaving CCS and will be replaced by Matt. We've got Andy, who's a commercial agreement manager, Leslie as well, who's not with us today, but is a commercial agreement manager for our apprenticeships agreements, and myself, so I'm a fast streamer here at CCS. In terms of housekeeping, I'll just run through some general sort of housekeeping info before we get started. So you can ask questions in the chat using the Q&A function, and we can respond either in the chat or verbally at the end where we will have some time for questions. You'll only be able to unmute yourself when we pause for questions at the end, as one of us will have to physically unmute you. For your awareness, we're going to be sharing the slides as well after today's event to the email that you used to register. Any responses to answered and unanswered questions will be shared after the event as well, once we've been through them and answered them. And as Andy mentioned before, we are recording this session, and we do aim to distribute this recording to you and those that couldn't attend today's session after the event as well. So we'll now be turning our cameras off for the duration of the event, just so you can see the slides more clearly. Okay, so if you would like to ask a question or comment at any point during the session, please feel free to do so. You should see an icon on your screen somewhere that looks like this, the question mark, and there'll be time for questions at the end. So today we're going to be going into a bit more detail about the Adult Skills and Learning DPS, how to apply and some guidance on applying. Some of these slides are the same as our early market engagement presentation, so we'll go over some slides in more detail than others. So I'll now run you through some information about CCS and our commercial agreements. CCS is an executive agency of the Cabinet Office, and we play an important role in helping the public sector achieve value for money. What is it we do? So effectively, we connect buyers and suppliers through our commercial agreements. So the levy is a standard procedure across our agreements, as CCS is a self-funding organisation that reports to the Cabinet Office. The way in which it works is that suppliers are invoiced a 1% levy by CCS, and this pays for the creation and management of our agreements, staff salaries and operational costs. So for example, apprenticeship training is one of our other commercial agreements that uses the levy. CCS and the benefits that we provide to buyers and suppliers cannot exist without this levy. So using the Adult Skills and Learning DPS, or RM6348, buyers will be able to use the agreement to procure publicly funded skills training for adults and young adults that are not in mainstream education. And the agreement will be open to all UK public sector bodies to use. In terms of the scope, so the scope includes any current and future publicly funded skills training for adults, such as post-16, post-19 training, Adult Skills Fund, free courses for jobs, UK Shared Prosperity Fund, multiply or similar iterations, and future funding streams or future iterations. And please note, so the scope will exclude apprenticeship levy training. Next slide, please. So essentially, the scope includes any publicly funded skills training that's procured. So an example here, even if a budget is grant funded to begin with, if the training delivery itself is then contracted out to a third-party provider, that could be included in the scope of the agreement. In terms of who can use the agreement, it's open to all UK public sector bodies, including both devolved and non-devolved areas of the UK. So this could include combined authorities, devolved admins, central government, including Department for Education, and education institutions, for example, colleges. And we've been engaging with and having discussions with various authorities, including DfE. So the DPS will be launched for suppliers to onboard on the 15th of July, so next Monday. Suppliers can join at any point in the agreement's lifetime, and the DPS will be launched for buyers to run call-offs on the 16th of August 2024. So for those that are not aware, call-off process is when buyers run a procurement through a DPS or framework. The launch date for the agreement is the 16th of August, as I said, so suppliers can actually apply from any time throughout the agreement life. So this isn't a deadline per se to apply. And the expiry date is the 27th of October 2028. This is Cabinet Office instruction, as a DPS agreement is procured through the PCR 2015 rules.
Yeah, so this is my section now. Thank you, Mia. So we're going to talk a bit about the DPS system and the service filters from a supplier perspective. So the filters are part of your application. You'll choose the service filters that apply to you. They're categorized into 3 headline filters: delivery location, which is based on the international territorial level, but we have sort of gone into more detail for Wales and Northern Ireland based on some feedback. The next one is sector subject area, which is split by qualification level. And the next one is individual contract value. So we added this one in due to the carbon net zero requirements, as any supplier that has individual contracts above £5 million per year needs to provide a carbon reduction plan. But in reality, due to the market, it'll be rare for a buyer to use the above 5 million filter. So this is a way, adding in this filter is a way of us making the agreement more SME friendly, so that not everyone has to complete that carbon reduction plan. Next. So the purpose of the filters, it helps buyers narrow down a list of suppliers based on their specific search criteria or requirements, and it means that you're only invited when you match the buyer criteria. So this is, a highlight sort of overview of the delivery location filter. So when you join the DPS or you're editing a response, you go through and select the delivery locations relevant to your business, even if it's only part of an area that you deliver to. And on the buyer side, they would select the areas that they want training delivered to. So we have them on screen, even though they're a bit small, but they'll be, we'll send out the slides afterwards. Sector subject area filter. So these are based on the Ofqual classification system for qualifications, so health, public services and care, science and maths, and so on. And then each of those SSAs is split by qualification. So non-qualifications or non-formal qualifications, level 2 and below, level 3, level 4 to 5, and level 6 and above. How to apply? So there are some minimum requirements for any supplier joining the DPS. So you need a valid DUNS number, with Dun & Bradstreet number. And just a note here to make sure that the DUNS number that you register with is the same DUNS number as is everywhere, sort of Companies House and all those different places, and the address is the same. You'll need Cyber Essentials Basic. So if you don't have that, you need to go through that process and become a Cyber Essentials accredited. As part of the application, you'll need to complete and pass a Financial Viability and Risk Assessment, or FVRA, and sort of provide some accounts. You'll need to comply with the selection questionnaire requirements, so all those legal obligations that any supplier would need if they were providing a service to the public sector. You need a UK provider reference number, and you'd need minimum insurance levels of employer's liability 5 million, public liability 5 million, and professional indemnity 1 million. So in order to register as a supplier, this is the screen that you'll see. So you can click register in the top right or click the top button. First step, pick supplier. Then there's a few options. You can type in your organization name and postcode, type in your DUNS number, or type in your postcode and do a lookup on there. An alternative route is that what we're going to do in a bit is talk about the DPS homepage, and there's a button that says access as a supplier, and if you scroll down to the bottom it'll say register for an account, and it'll take you to the same place that we just were. So to start your application, once you're registered, so this is the thumbnail that you're looking for, the yellow one on the top. We do have a learning and training services DPS, which focuses on corporate training for public sector employees. So that has the white logo at the bottom. That's not what we're clicking on. We want you to focus on the yellow one, which is the logo for the Adult Skills and Learning DPS. Obviously, you can apply for the other one as well, but they had the slightly different requirements for that one. So this is the home screen. So this is the section you'll navigate to start your application. And at the bottom, there's some links. So at the bottom left, there's a bid pack. When you click that, it'll download the bid pack. It has all the contract terms in there, has supply guidance and everything you need to know before applying. There's also a quick supplier guide document in there, which I recommend looking at. It's just sort of a short form version that sort of gives you the outline of what you need to do, so you can assess what you need to do basically, and that's included in the bid pack. So once you've read that, if you have any questions, you can click the clarifications link. That's when you can ask questions, or if somebody's already asked you a question, you can read it there. And once you're happy, click access as a supplier in the bottom right, and that'll take you through to start applying. We've had some problems in the past because the supplier registration is all hosted on the supplier registration service, which is used for a variety of things. You have to make sure you go into the DPS part of the supplier registration service. So once you're registered as a supplier, you don't use this page to actually complete your application. You'll complete the wrong selection questionnaire essentially, so you want to make sure you're in the right place. So if you do find yourself on this page, click on the blue-grey box in the bottom right, click on view the available agreements, and it'll send you back to the page we were just looking at. And so once you start your application, this is what you'll need to do. So you'll need to fill in the selection questionnaire and the DPS questionnaire. The SQ asks for basic information about your company, including legal requirements, and the DPSQ asks about your service offering. So talking about those filters, we covered locations, SSAs, qualification levels, including non-qualifications. So this is roughly what you'll see. So once you're in, introduction, you can download the questions from there if you want to take a look before you start, and then proceed to complete all the various boxes. You can save and view your answers to come back later. So if you don't want to do it in one sitting, then that's fine. So as you're going through the application, there'll be various stages. If on your dashboard it says registered 1, that means you're completing the SQ. If it says registered 2, it means you've completed the SQ and you're completing the DPSQ. Once you're in assessing, that means your bit's done for now. Your application is completed. It's over to our DPS team to review your application, and over to the finance team to review your financial viability risk assessment. Once they've done that, and if everything's okay, you'll be put into agreeing by our team. So that basically just means you don't need to go into the system, agree to the DPS terms, and as soon as you click that button to agree, you're then appointed onto the DPS and visible to buyers when they go through their shortlisting, once it's launched, obviously, on the 16th of August. So I'm now going to hand over to Lyndon, who's going to do the next section.
Hi everyone. So this is the sort of guidance section at the end. So hopefully we've thought of some questions that you might have and tried to answer them. But in terms of our top tips, number one, we did download the bid pack and take time to review what is in the bid pack, because everything that you need to onboard is in the bid pack. So all the terms and conditions, any attachments, any schedules, It's all in there. One of the key documents is the read first document. So as it says, this is the document you should be reading first, because this explains everything about the onboarding process, questions, information you're going to be asked, that type of thing. So please take time to sort of have a read of that before you start your application. As Andy's already mentioned, your registered address needs to match. So with company's house, so that your DUNS number and UKPRN, so that they all need to match. This is something that our DPS team will check when you go into assessing. Have your Cyber Essentials and insurance certificates ready, as well as the FVRA template and your supporting account PDFs, because obviously once you're in the DPS, in the SQ and DPS queue, you will need to upload these supporting documents as part of your application. So just be mindful of that. Accessing is done by the DPS team. We have got another support function. We'll come to that later. And obviously, if you select what Andy said as well, if you select contracts under £5 million only that you'll be bidding for, then you won't need to complete a carbon reduction plan. Next slide, please. So in terms of resources available, so like I said, there's the read first document within the bid pack. Also in there is a quick supplier guide. There's some video walkthroughs as well available on the web page. There's a guidance document about FVRA if you haven't done that yet. On the DPS webpage itself, there's some clarification questions. There's a link to all the clarifications questions that are asked. So if you're not joining straight away, then it might be worth having a quick look at those clarifications first, because again, that might help you with your application. And then obviously there's some technical support, which there's the CCS help desk. So info@crowncommercial.gov.uk is our email address for that. But we also, all of our DPSs are provided by a third party, NQC. So they have a 24/7 help desk. On the right hand side of the DPS itself, there's a web chat function, so live chat. Again, you can use that, but again, we've got a slide dedicated to this at the end, so I won't go into too much of that. So in terms of how long will it take to apply, this is a question we get asked a lot, and I'll be honest, this is a lot dependent on you and the resource you have. Obviously, there's the SQ and DPS queue that you need to complete, and also the FVRA form. So they're the three key things that will take time and resource for someone to sit at a PC and actually answer the questions. But like I said, in the bid pack is all the information that you need. There is also a document in there, it's a PDF. It's normally called something like DPS Profile Learning, which is basically a PDF version of all the questions in the SQ and DPS queue. So it's literally every question that could be asked. Now the DPS is quite fluid. Certain questions will be asked depending on your answers to a previous one, but this literally contains, I think, 300 odd pages of the questions that might get asked. So again, take a bit of time to have a look at that, so you know what information you're going to need to provide, and then hopefully it's more of a seamless process. In terms of, I guess, calendar time, again, this will be dependent. So Cyber Essentials is a mandatory requirement, so if you don't have it, then obviously you're going to need to wait until you can get that, and I guess that can take weeks, hopefully not months, but it's only weeks. The SQ and DPS queue, that's hours to days to complete. In terms of, we've got some standard SLAs within CCS. So the FVRA review, there's a 10-day SLA that has been applied. Now, hopefully it doesn't take that long, but that's the maximum it would take. So once you submit all the information, and you go into assessing, obviously your FVRA will go and be assessed by a commercial finance team, and there's a 10-day SLA on that. In terms of the application, so the assessing, again, there's a standard SLA for this, which is 15 days. It doesn't take 15 days, so don't worry. And again, if you're looking to get on board quickly, you can always flag that to us, and obviously we can liaise with the DPS team to make sure that they're aware of your application, and hopefully we can expedite that as quick as it needs to be. Okay, next slide. In terms of how you bid for contracts, so obviously The first bit will obviously be getting on board the DPS. So once you're appointed, you're then live. Buyers will then come in and use the filters that we've already sort of discussed, you know, the delivery location, sector, subject area, qualification levels. They'll run the filters. That will provide a list of potential providers. And obviously then at that point, you know, buyers would then contact you with either an email or you know, they may use their own e-sourcing platform, and then invite you to bid for their call-off contracts. Next slide, please. This is what I talked about with NQC. So, you know, if you have any technical issues or, you know, help navigating the system, then the best people are NQC to speak to. There's their email address, their phone number. Like I said, there's web chat on the right-hand side of the DPS itself. So, you know, if you're stuck at any point, you know, that would probably be your quickest route to getting an answer. They're quite responsive. Also, you've got various channels there to actually use. So I would, you know, recommend you using that over, you know, sending an email to CCS, you know, at the info at email address, because you're likely to get answered quicker using, you know, contacting NQC. Questions about the commercial agreement itself. Again, like I mentioned before, there's a clarification link on the DPS webpage at the bottom. Again, maybe worth having a look at that first, to make sure that, you know, no one else has already asked the question that you've got. But if not, then obviously you click on the same link and you're able to ask a new clarification question. Then this then gets, you know, alerted to us and the DPS team, and, you know, we'll come back to you as quick as we can in terms of, you know, answering that that question or questions. Okay. So that's in terms of, I guess, in terms of maybe the questions that you might have. Here's just a quick summary of what we've already discussed. So who does it apply to? So again, any supplier that meets the minimum requirements of the DPS can onboard. What's it for? So this is to bid for public sector contracts, you know, in the provision of publicly funded adult and young adult training. That's what the DPS is for. Where? This is UK based only. When? So from the 15th of July, so Monday next week, you know, the DPS will be live for suppliers to onboard, and then 30 days later, so from the 16th of August, that's when buyers will be able to use it. Why are we doing this? I think, you know, from all our market research, from all our customer engagement activities, you know, we believe that this offers like a centralized route across all the different adult skills funding streams, which would hopefully save you and your buyers time and resource in having to, you know, navigate different contracts and agreements, frameworks, DPSs. It should hopefully be in one place. And, you know, so certainly for customers, they then don't have to create their own new DPSs or new flexible frameworks to offer the same thing. How can I get on it? So like we said, Andy's already said, so on SRS, or the supplier registration service, that's where you start this process. So where you register as a supplier or where you access the DPS webpage from, it's all going to be on there. It's a government hosted platform, but, you know, as soon as the DPS goes live on Monday, you know, we will email you with the link so you can go straight into it and sign up. And again, another reminder that there is a supplier guide in the bid pack. So again, download the bid pack first, have a quick read through it, familiarize yourself with the documents in there, and hopefully that all helps you